Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Babalu Sports Show, where we talk anything related to Wisconsin sports, focusing mainly, of course, on the Bucks, Brewers, and Packers, and Wisconsin Badgers. So, if you're a Bucky fan, it's been a very exciting week for us here in the world of sports. We're going to start off with somebody that with the NCAA Women's Hockey Championship. Admittedly, I've not followed it as well as I should have this year. Going forward, I will hopefully do a better job of that. But with that said, it was a very good season, obviously, for the Badger women. And they were this past week in the NCAA Frozen Four hockey tournament in Duluth. They went in as a sixth seed, which ends up being the lowest seed to ever win an NCAA Women's Championship hockey championship. They started out on Friday night in the semifinals where they took on their old rival, Minnesota, and they took that game 3-2 in overtime. A goal by Caroline Harvey with 3:13 left in overtime sealed the deal for them, moving them on to the Final Four, or to the championship game. In that championship game, they were taking on Ohio State, who was the defending champions. It was a very low-scoring game, to say the least. Cami Korish gave the Badgers, Kristen Sims gave the Badgers the first group. Try that again. Kristen Sims scored a first period goal that gave the Badgers a 1-0 lead that they would end up holding on to. Cami Korish had a heck of a game in the net with 31 saves. They finished the season with a 29-10-2 overall record. Just an outstanding season, obviously. That is now their seventh national championship title for the Badger women. They won it in 2006, 2007, 2009, 2011, 2019, 2021, and now in 2023. Congratulations to the Badger women's hockey team on their NCAA national championship. So speaking of national tournaments, the Badgers had two games this week since I last spoke with you. In round two, they took on Liberty, 27-9 Liberty, who's making their first ever invite to a national championship tournament. That game was a Sunday in Madison. The Badgers took that game 75-71. Chucky, I guess he wanted to prove himself to me after the last time I talked with you and I said he shouldn't be the one being the go-to scorer for a game. Well, this game, he was. He had 27 points in this victory over Liberty. Krall had 14 points, but he had foul trouble in the second half, and that held him back because I believe, I don't know the numbers, but I believe the majority, if not all, of his 14 points came in the first half. But making up for Krall's low score in the second half and being on the bench was Wall, who came out with 14 points in the second half, and to go with his total of 16. This game would, like all other Badger games, would go down to the last few seconds. Max Kleinschmidt hit a layup with 42 seconds left to give the Badgers a lead that they would not relinquish. A side note in this game, the Badgers didn't only have one three-pointer in the whole game, and that came late in the game. If they would not have had that three-pointer, it would have been the first time since 1997 that the Badgers did not score a three-point goal in a game. So now that moved the Badgers on to the quarterfinals where they were going to face a tough 21-15 Oregon team. Well, I should say 21-14 before this game. So now the Badgers, this game took place Tuesday in Oregon, and the Badgers, in another tough, close-fought game, pulled out a 61-58 victory over Oregon. Max Kleinschmidt was going to be the big scorer in this game with 18 points. Chucky Hepburn was the only other Badger in double figures with 12, and he had a three-pointer with 55.4 seconds left to help pull out the victory. Uh, it was not the best shooting game for the Badgers all around. It was a hard, like I said, hard fought game, a game that, with the way they shot in this game, maybe a little lucky to pull it off. Just looking at the box score real quick, Wall was 1 for 9. He had 5 points. Crawl was just 4 of 10, nine points. Chucky, even though he scored those 12 points, he was still only 4 of 15 from the floor. And Connor Esesian, a little better shooting day than he's been having, but he only took 9 shots, hitting 4 of them, but he ended up with 9 points too. This is the 20th game this season for the Badgers that ended in a 5-point or less final, and 5 of them being in overtime. This is just unbelievable that they've had this many games decided by that small of a margin. And the Badgers, with that, it's pretty amazing that they do have the record they have, because they don't have the knockdown shooter in that game. Chuck Hepburn can be with his threes when he's on. Max Kleinschmidt, obviously. But all in all, they don't have the dagger type of player that you would expect a team to have this kind of record with that many games decided by 5 points or less. They also have had the 11th toughest schedule, which is something that we don't think about when we talk about how good a team has done or hasn't done. Knowing that it is the 11th toughest schedule, that I'm pretty amazed where they're at, considering what we thought that they were at the beginning of the season. So for the Badger men basketball team, the next game is not going to be until next Tuesday, where they are going to take on North Texas in Vegas for the semifinals. And I think they have pretty good shot at this game. And I've been saying this all along. I'm not really sure off the top of my head what North Texas's record is, but I do know that if the Badgers get all their guys hitting on all cylinders at once, I mean, look what we did against Oregon here, with half our guys not making half or even near half of their shots. All 4 guys that I just pointed out, Wall, Crawl, Chucky, and Connor, all shot below 50% from the field. I'm not sure off the top of my head what Max Kleinschmidt shot, but I believe it was over 50%. And I believe that he may have been, as far as players with major minutes, he was the only one that hit over half his shots. So what do you all out there think of? What do you all out there think their chances are of winning this NIT tournament? Go ahead and leave a comment leave your prediction and comments in the comment section, and I will try and get back to you. I always say try, but I mean I will get back to you and make a comment back to you and have a little discussion on what we think that the Badgers will do in this NIT tournament. Now, how are your brackets doing overall? I'll tell you, my brackets just are not looking as good as I was expecting. I was fairly confident when I made these out and made my decisions, but you know what? I definitely did not have North Texas taking on Wisconsin in the NIT semifinals on that side. I had Oklahoma State there, but North Texas took out Sam Houston and then took out Oklahoma State. And here they are in the semifinals against the Badgers. On the other side of the bracket, I didn't have either one of those 2 teams there either, UAB and Utah Valley. I had it New Mexico and Clemson, with Clemson going to the championship game to face the Badgers. So I'm looking at, what do I got? Like 1, 2, but 26 right and probably just as many wrong. So my NIT bracket does not look very good at all. Looking over at the men's tourney, the NCAA tournament, I have a few teams that are still going. Alabama, which I had going to the championship game, they're still in. Houston, that I have winning it all, they're still in. We got uh, Texas, who I have making it to the round of 8, they're in. So over on that side, I'm doing pretty good. I had Houston and Indiana going to the Sweet 16. It's Houston, Miami. I had Xavier and Texas going, and that's exactly what happened. I had Kansas, of course, beating Arkansas. So that's a big knock on me. But so it's Xavier and Texas, which would, sorry, Xavier and Texas are going. I have them going. It's Arkansas and Connecticut playing, which is I had Arkansas and Kansas. And down in the other West bracket, I had Gonzaga and UCLA, which both are sitting there. And I had UCLA taking out Gonzaga, then taking out Kansas to go into the Final Four. So on that side, I would have had Houston, UCLA, which is still a possibility. Now on the other side of the bracket, Alabama is taking on San Diego State, and I had Virginia beating San Diego State. So that got that wrong. The other round of 16 in the South, I don't have either team. I had Baylor and Arizona, which probably most of you out there did too, but now it's Creighton and Princeton. So either way, I won't have Baylor coming out of there, so that one's wrong. But they'll be facing Alabama. Hopefully, Alabama takes that one just to keep my bracket going. So down in the East, it is Florida, Atlantic, and Tennessee. I had neither one of them to be in there either. I had Purdue and Duke. And then I had Purdue taking that, going to the round of 8. And in the other part of the East, I still got Kansas State, which I had there. But I had them taking on Marquette and losing to Marquette. So got that one. It's Michigan State there instead, taking on Kansas State. And I had Marquette going to the Final Four. So now my East bracket is completely busted. But how are the rest of you out there doing with your brackets? Probably there's been so many upsets. Are there anybody out there that's got a clean bracket? I don't mean perfect. I just mean that you have the chance of all your teams making to the round of 8. It'd be interesting to know if anybody does out there. I know it was the first night. After the first night or first 2 nights, there was nobody in like the ESPN brackets or any of that had a perfect bracket after the first weekend. So another thought, just a thought that just popped in my mind now, with the way the Badgers are performing here in the NIT. Are there some of some of you out there that thought that Greg Gard should be let go after this season? Or is this changing your mind at all? Are you now maybe thinking that Greg Gard needs a little more leeway and maybe that he is worthy of staying on for the next season? Myself, remember, I did not believe that he deserved to be let go to begin with. So for me, this is not changing my perspective at all. I am pleased to see the way they're coming out playing in this NIT tournament. We still need a little bit of better shooting, but that's not on the coach necessarily. And I believe he's made enough adjustments to keep us viable in these games. Crawl, I believe we still need to go to Crawl and Wall a little bit more down low. I don't know if that's just scheme or if that's just not the players getting open, or maybe it's not our guards and whatnot getting the ball in there either. Although both of them, Wall and Crawl, do play on the outside too. So I like seeing Hepburn down there when it's just against the guards. But him and Esesian both, when they get down below and there's a big center down there that's blocking, like the last game. I mean, there was way too many blocks in the Oregon game. Part of that is just they have awesome centers there, centers and big men there. But the other part of it is once we got down there, it seemed like we were going to shoot the ball and try for a layup regardless of who was standing there in front of us instead of pitching it out. And that's something that the coaches can bring up, and that might be a little bit on the coach himself to rectify that. But it's also on the players, because the players have got to be in that mindset. If the player is not in the mindset to pass it out, what is the coach going to do? You can reprimand them maybe, but you're not setting them on the bench when they're your go-to players for crunch time. So just a little thought there on uh, Greg Gard and the perspective of the fan perspective of wanting to, immediate satisfaction. If we're not getting the results, get rid of the coach. Sometimes it isn't always the coach, especially in uh, college basketball where you have such a turnover for players. Although the Badgers don't, we all know that. We all know that most of our players stick around longer than the national average. So uh, that's just my perspective on it. Go ahead and feel free to leave your perspective and your comments, your thoughts in the comment section at the bottom of the page here. And again, I will get back, and I'm interested in seeing the thought process, and I'll bring it up on my next podcast here, and we'll discuss it a little bit. So, let's see, what else do we have to talk about? Basketball wise, the Bucks again are just on the roll. They've dismantled the Spurs last night. It wasn't even a close game. Giannis had, I don't even know the stats right now, but Giannis had like 20 some points, 30 points maybe in 20 some minutes, something like that. It was just an all overall team effort. The biggest thing coming out of that game was Sandro came back to the Bradley Center, and I was really happy to see him get a nice warm welcome. He's been actually playing pretty good, and he had 20 points just the other night. We knew as Bucks fans and watching him, everybody knew he had potential. There's just not with Bobby and Brooke, standing in his way. Not to mention, if you want to move over, then you're looking at Giannis and Pat Connaughton. There just wasn't a spot for him to get the minutes that he deserved and needed. So I think this was just a good move on the Bucks to release him and let him have a chance to go somewhere where he can prove himself. Jordan Ora is having a pretty decent time over in Indianapolis too. He's still struggling with the shot, it seems, but he's getting regular minutes, decent minutes. He had a good game, a fairly decent game against the Bucks here last week. George Hill had a good game against the Bucks though too, although he's not really. He's on doing about the same as he was doing with the Bucks. Good game here and there. Most of the time, he's just out there for game management, and he's not scoring. Just a veteran guy trying to help the youngsters mainly. He's not there for anything other than that, probably. So, other than that, what do we got coming up? I'm going to put out a podcast probably tomorrow on the Brewers, and as we're winding down the preseason here for the Brewers. I mean, the 30th is when everything's up and running, so that's what we're looking for. That's 7 days away. So put on something on just a recap of the preseason schedule and what I'm expecting out of them as the season rolls along. And also within the next couple of days, I'm going to give you my thoughts on this whole Aaron Rodgers debacle and what I believe we can look forward to moving forward with Jordan Love and the young receivers we have. We've lost a few guys now that I really hate seeing. Robert Tonyan leave. I thought he was a very good center. I thought he was underutilized. And when we were passing to him, 2 years ago, he was just scoring machine down in the red zone. I don't know why last year, unless it was just injury hindering him, or he him and Rodgers weren't getting along or on the same page. I don't know why he wasn't scoring last season. I was not at all surprised to see Alan Lazard leave. I thought the writing was on the wall all season long with the comments he was making. So that was not a surprise. And I don't, no offense to Alan Lazard, but I don't think that really is that much of a, not that much of, not going to hurt us that much. Yes, he had clutch catches with Rodgers at times, but there were plenty of times that he was open across the middle that Rodgers wasn't throwing to him. And that makes you wonder if he really trusted him as much as he says he did. Although Lazard is waiting for him in New York now, so we'll see how that turns out. So that was one that did not surprise me at all. The rest, we'll see as we're going forward, and I'll discuss it more. One player that I'd like to see back yet is Mason Crosby. I think he is clutch. He's proved he's clutch, especially in Green Bay. And it takes a special kind of kicker to be able to kick and hit those, hit the field goals, especially from any distance in Green Bay during the winter months. For that matter, in Soldier Field when you have to go there too. So we'll see what happens there. I don't believe all his kicking problems from 2 years ago was his fault with all the changeover with holders and long snappers and that kind of thing. Last year was a very big bounce back year for him, and I expect that to keep going for him. So that is all we have for now. Thank you for joining me. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button for me so we can keep this going, and share it too. And until next time, thank you all for joining me. I appreciate it. Have a good night. Take care.